Your mother was very powerful. She blessed your robes so that when the need was most, they would fly you away.
You know, I think for both of us, we have kids, and we both as actors we do very serious adult films. And it's interesting, don't you think, that we both ended up on this having such similar stories, you know? It's not like you've done a lot of this, or we both have never done anything like this.
This is our first, both of us, our first voiced animated character, right?
Yeah, and we're both parents.
I was surprised to hear that this was your first. I was like, no, she's probably done many before.
I know.
It's my first too. I'd say freeing was good for me. For my money, it was. My experience was music. What's the music of the character? There's lots of time to play, and any idea that came in my head, my imagination, in a few weeks coming up to go work, I completely embraced. Nothing was out of bounds, and I didn't want to put any sort of governor on my imagination going into it. And then also getting in there and going to work, Travis them still wanted a reality-based character. So, I mean, you are actually literally a caricature, but you don't want to go in and play a caricature. At least it didn't with this, even though it is heightened and fantastic. You know,
it was great. I mean, it was eye-opening because I never knew how they did these things. I'd always seen images of actors in booths and stuff like that, and obviously we've done, ADR and looping for film, so we've been in that environment, but, we're usually in there kind of trying to duplicate something, not completely of what you've already done, and in this case you're really in a room creating, and you can do that with ADR as well, but it really is kind of like finding the skin and bones in a very, very different way, As actors, we kind of like put the clothes on, we put the makeup on, we put the hair on, we start walking, we start feeling, we start smelling differently and things like that. And in this case, you're doing all of that stuff, but you're not physically doing all of that stuff. You're mentally kind of doing all of that. And that was just really refreshing. It was just an interesting way to kind of tell a story that I hadn't been a part of before. Well, Monkey is, she's a great warrior. And she kind of steps in at first as somebody that's I think at first comes across very harsh and quite brutal with Kubo. And Kubo can't quite understand why Monkey is this way. And ultimately, she really kind of showcases two very different characteristics, one being very nurturing and motherly, and then also one that's quite direct and honest and really doesn't, placate to him as a child and really wants to protect him and kind of prepare him for what the world really is.
And what were we grown-up conversationing about? Not to worry, I'll show you how. Monkey see, monkey do.
So, we've been working on Kubo for 5 years. We started developing the project when we were knee-deep in production on Paranorman. The original idea sprang from the fertile mind of our brilliant character designer, Shannon Tyndall. And even at the start, there was something that was really rich and evocative about even the most reductive form of the idea, that of a sweeping stop-motion samurai epic. It was something that was really cool. It was something we had never really seen before, and it was something that we had never taken on. And for me, for growing up as a kid, I loved, I was an obsessive fan of big epic fantasy. I loved Tolkien and Star Wars and Akira Kurosawa and Ray Harryhausen. And this was an opportunity for us to tell a film that was in those same colors, that we could paint in those same colors. But, underneath it all, as you develop these things, you start to find those connections that you have, those parallels that you have between the characters and your own life. And as the film was evolving, as we started to develop, I started to see those connections that I had with my own experience and with Kubo's experience. He's really, he becomes something of a proxy for me. He's an artist, he's a storyteller, he's a musician, he's an animator, really, when you think about it. And his journey reflects my own. His whole world revolves around his mother. And when I was a kid, my mother was my closest friend in the entire world. It was the defining relationship of my young life. And this film explores that time in our lives when those things begin to shift and then ultimately irrevocably change for a variety of reasons. In Kubo's, it's a fantastic version. I think most of us do not have, goddesses streaming down and trying to destroy us. But for most of us, we all go through that change at some point. And in this film explores that moment in our lives when we're shifting from being kids to being adults and the things that we gain and the things that we leave behind along the way.